All right, so today I'm going to give you, especially if you're a business person, I'm going to give you 5 different levers you can use to sell more products, make more profit in the business. Because as business people, we are always looking to increase our sales. We're also looking to increase confidence in our products or our service. And of course, if we're able to do these two things, then we are potentially going to increase our profits ultimately. So today, I'm going to show you 5 ways to create more confidence and more belief in your products and services. And that is by using proof. Now, proof is basically you telling someone or convincing them that what you have for sale is true. It's going to do the thing that you say it is going to do, and that they are going to get the results that they expect to get from it when they buy products or the service. Now, proof is not just one. Proof, it's many labels. I'm going to be explaining those labels for you. I'm going to tell you the least effective form of proof, and then we're going to go from there up to the very highest form of proof. So at number 5, what is in this effective is what I call personal experience, right? So what but now? So this is the level of proof that is out of your mouth. You are telling someone it is going to work for you, right? Maybe you created a product, maybe you invented something and you tell them it's going to work. You are giving them your own personal experience and your own personal bias based on the product or the service that you are selling. Now, if you're starting out, if you're launching a new product, you've not done any kind of marketing before, probably you're just brand new business, you don't have any previous customers, right, or existing customers, you're basically starting from scratch, then this is where you are going to start. This is where everybody starts. Now, it is not the highest form of proof, but it is still a form of proof, right? And you've got to start here. You've got to tell people, oh, what I have for sale is going to work. I know that it's going to work and I vouch for it. So even though it's not strong, it's still going to make a lot of people say, you know what, doesn't matter. We are going to go for it and we are going to see how well that works. So if you're using personal experience to sell your product, what it means is that you are having people believe so much in your personality as a person. They have to take your word for it. They have to believe what you say about the product exclusively without having recourse to any other point of reference. But it is still a way for you to get started. It is still something that you can get started with once you start selling your product. So the next level of proof is social proof, right? So social proof. So social proof is you saying, hey, this product works and I know that it works. And I'm not just saying that it works. There are a ton of people who have bought the product from me, testify that it works. So social proof is testimonials. People are vouching for you now. Now it is not just you saying that the product works. It is you saying that other people have used the product and it works. Now, this is really, really powerful because don't have to rely on your say-so. They don't have to take your word for it alone. Now they have another frame of reference. They have another source from which they can borrow believability, right? So testimonials is a form of social proof. Now, there are other forms of social proof like using statistics, stats and figures. So for example, if I want to tell you that a supplement that I have is going to help you sleep better, and let's say my supplement, for the sake of an example, is called Sleep Well Gummies. Now, I want to tell you and convince you that it works. I can tell you because I had sleep problems. I came up with the formula, I used it, and it works. And if you use it, it's going to work. Now, that's personal experience. Now, we want to move to the next level with the social proof. Now, I can go further and tell you, 1,000 other people have bought Sleep Well gummies from me and they testify that it works. Here are some of their comments. Now, under social proof, I can also still tell you that not just that 1,000 other people have bought the gummies from me and they have used it and it works, right? the University of Minnesota in the USA have actually taken a bottle of my supplements, did their research on it. You did a control group experiments, and from their experiments, they found out that in 87% or 95% of people with sleep problems, taking sleep well gummies helped them sleep better. Now, do you see how this elevates the level of proof? So it is not just the fact that 1,000 other people have used it. An external source, a reputable source, a university has said that they have taken my product and done some research on it, and they can actually back it up and say, yes, that the product works. So social proof is not just what people say, it is also statistics, it's also research, it's also what some powerful figure quotes about a topic, right? So let's say someone who is world renowned, and we're going to get to that form of proof, right? Because we're still going to expand on it better. But let's say somebody said, you know what, I use this product and it worked beautifully, and then I recommend it to other people and they use it and it worked, right? So these are forms of proof. And this takes us to the third level of proof, which is what I call authority. So authority is where someone who is known in a field vouches for your product. So let's say a scientist who has studied the field of sleep apnea, right, who has studied insomnia for the last 2 decades, says, you know what, I used sleep well gummies and it worked, and then I prescribed it to my patients and it worked. So now you're not just relying on personal experience or social proof, you're not relying on that person's authority as someone who is famously known in the field of sleep and in studying the effects of insomnia and how to overcome it. So you are now borrowing on that person's credibility, that person's years of experience, and that person's level of fame or authority, right? So that is what you're borrowing, and that is what authority does for you. Now, the thing with the authority is that if you are going to use authority as a level of proof, the markets that you are selling to, they have to be familiar with that source of authority. They have to be familiar with it, because if they don't know the person, if I go get a researcher and they don't know the person, well, I now have to convince them that this person is legit. So this does not mean that you shouldn't use this. You should use it, but you have to make sure as much as you can that you are bringing in someone that the target market is familiar with. And if it is somebody that they're not familiar with, then you have to basically big up that person and make sure that you put out that person's credentials so that they are very quickly come to speed with understanding that person's place in the context of the field and the problem that your product or your service is trying to solve for them, right? And then there's an interesting study that was done by a university, I think it was Harvard or Stanford, one of the universities in the United States of America. And what they did was that they went to a prison and they got a prisoner who was serving a lifetime, and they brought him to the prison, to the hospital, and they put a doctor's lab coat on him, and they put him in a consulting room. And then they sent patients to that consulting room, and this prisoner would ask them questions, run a diagnosis on them, and prescribe a drug. Now, they will now take the drug, go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy, they had already been told, the pharmacy would now give them a placebo. So a placebo is basically, it's not a drug, but just something that you give someone, and then they take it thinking that they've taken a real drug, but it's not really a real drug. It doesn't do anything. So they get prescribed this placebo, they get the placebo, and the ailments simply vanish. They didn't know this person was a prisoner, but they believe 100% the person is legit. Why? Because number one, the person is in a hospital environment. That's number one. Number two is that the person is in a consulting room attending to them. And number three is that the person looks the part. The person wears a lab coat and looks like a real doctor. And that is why you see a lot of unscrupulous people go around and, try to pose like they're in a certain profession, right? If you watched the movie Catch Me If You Can, right? The main character that was played by Leonardo DiCaprio, Frank Abagnale, I think that's his name. He said, right, in at different points he was a pilot, at some points he was a doctor, at some points he was a ship captain. He was basically looking the parts, and because he looked the parts, the people that were involved basically believed him, right? In fact, he even did this so much that he was able to fool even the FBI. And that is what authority does for you. So authority make people believe in you and your products and your service. So even if you are not an authority, and it helps a lot if you're an authority, but even if you are not an authority, you can borrow authority. You can go get doctors, go get nurses, depending on your product, depending on your service, right? If you're selling something to people in the legal profession, the best form of authority you can probably get is a judge or a justice or a fellow lawyer who is, of an elevated position in the profession or who has spent a lot of time. My point is, you have to make sure that when you're using authority, that you're using it in the context of the market that you're trying to serve. So that takes us to the fourth, which is the second most effective level of proof that you can provide and use to sell your product, and that is demonstration. Guys, the moment you can show how something works, instantly, it's almost as if it's like magic. You instantly cultivate proof. And that is one thing that I like about e-commerce. That's one thing that I like about selling physical products. And that's why it's the mainstay of my own business, because I don't need to do a lot of talking. I can just show how a product works. Now, let me tell you guys the story of how the power of demonstration works. So back in the day, we used to use Nokia phones, right? Nokia was all over the world. Everybody had a Nokia phone. Everybody was familiar with that tone when you put it on and when you put it off, right? And then with the hands shaking and then giving way to the Nokia logo and all of everybody practically knew what Nokia was. And then one day, this genius called Steve Jobs announced the launch of a new phone. And if you know how phones used to work, it used to be buttons on the phone, right? We needed to tap the buttons just like you tap a computer desktop. That's how we used to make the phones work. So Steve Jobs announces the launch of a new phone. And then on that day, he says, this is the phone. We call it the iPhone. And he says it doesn't have any button. It has a camera and then it has just somewhere to touch to put it on and off. So the question was, how the hell does this thing work, right? If it doesn't have buttons on it, if we can't type directly on it, he said, oh, well, you can type directly on it. It just doesn't have buttons. You type directly on the screen. Oh, really? Okay. And then he showed us how it works. And to be honest, I was skeptical myself because I was like, how on earth is this going to work? How easy is it going to be that we can just directly on our phone screens and it will still achieve the same results that we plan to achieve? Well, I guess everybody knows the answer now because iPhones are everywhere. Every phone in the world has practically followed that model. And Nokia, that had over 80% of the market at the time, is no longer in business today, right? So demonstration works when you're able to demonstrate your product. It is a killer way to build proof for your product. And this is why many companies, many businesses use demonstration. In fact, in my opinion, you can demonstrate anything. Doesn't matter whether it's a digital product, you can demonstrate it. Now, someone may say, how do I demonstrate a digital product? Well, you can show pictures and screenshots of the product. If it's a book, you can show the first chapters. Right, you can say, oh, inside this book, this is what you will learn, and then you put a screenshot of chapter 1, and then a screenshot of chapter 2, and so on and so forth. Right? You can do that, or you can do a video of you flipping through the book. So same thing if it's a digital book, right? You can just do a video of you scrolling through the book. The idea is that you want to show people how it works. Demonstration is powerful because people can literally see the product or the service in action. Here's another example. So I've been thinking about buying another house in the US, and we've been looking at different places in our favorite city, of course. And of course, You can look at the houses, you can look at the pictures, which is again another form of demonstration, right? And it just occurred to me, I was like, what if I could see how these houses look actually furnished and not empty? And I went to the options. By the way, I was using Zillow.com. So I went to the options and I saw that I could filter the houses by houses that were already furnished. So I clicked on that option, and now all the results that I was getting were for houses that were already furnished. And now I could literally see how the houses would look. Now, what I learned later is that many of those furnishings were dummy furnishings, right? They are not real furniture. They are basically like mock-ups that are 3D printed or whatever, but they use it to show you how the house is going to look like. Now, for some of them, they were real furniture, real beddings, real equipment. And if you were buying that particular house, they won't just come and pack up their stuff. They'll sell you everything. They just tell you to pay them a nominal fee for those things so that they won't have to go through the process and hard work of coming to move it out. Now, that is how powerful demonstrations can be, that you can see how a house looks. And one of the houses that I saw, I loved it so much. I said, you know what? We're going to take this house and we're going to leave everything as is. We're buying the furniture, everything, right? So that is demonstrations for you, because now this thing is beautifully decorated. I don't have to think about decorating anymore if I buy the house, right? Exactly. So that's what demonstrations can do for you. Demonstrations create almost instant belief for your product or your service. So make sure that you are doing a lot of demonstrations for whatever it is you are selling. And these days, doing demonstrations is as easy as simply picking up your phone, touching the video app, and then just start videoing. And that's it. So finally, we add number 1, which is the highest level of proof that you can use for marketing your product or your service. And that level of proof is called celebrity. So that is celebrity. Guys, this is the highest form of proof. Why celebrity? Because when people perceive you as the top dog in an industry, they naturally gravitate towards you. They believe everything that you say. People love their celebrities. That's why people fight for their celebrities. They vouch for their celebrities. Their celebrities could be the most worthless pieces of shit in the entire universe, but because they like them, they will vouch for them. When you see them vouching for their favorite celebrities, you would think they were the celebrities' PA or they live in the same house with them. But that's how the human brain is wired. When we like someone, we make sure that the person is not besmirched. We try to make sure that the person doesn't come to peril. The person's image doesn't come to peril. And that is why celebrity is powerful. 2 ways to use celebrity in your business as a level of proof. 1 is for you to be the celebrity yourself, right? So you can build celebrity by becoming a celeb. And becoming a celebrity doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be as popular as Beyonce. It doesn't mean you have to be as popular as Davido, right? You don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be Tom Cruise, who is an actor that is well known all over the world. You don't have to be Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, these guys are celebs. They're like out and out celebs. But you can be a celeb within your own industry. If your industry is too big, you can be a celeb within the niche inside of your overall industry. Because if you are selling something to people within a niche, you don't need to be Ronaldo to be effective as a celebrity. You just need to be a celebrity to the people within that niche. And it is easy now, these days, to become a celebrity within an industry and within a niche that is inside of an industry. And how do you do it? You do it by using social media. You create social media campaigns, you create content and you put it out. You do it consistently enough. And then over time, sometimes it can happen within months, sometimes it can take a year or a couple of years to happen. But over time, people begin to look at you as the top dog, as the person to listen to, as the person with the best information inside of that niche. You begin to get noticed. People begin to invite you to conferences. People begin to ask you to appear on panels, right? People begin to ask you to become a judge in competitions relating to that industry. And the more visible you are, the more celebrity status you gain within that niche or within that industry and even outside of it. So you want to use your social media to start creating content, video content like this one, or you start doing written content and posting it on all of your social media: Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, every single one of them. LinkedIn, you want to be on every single one of them, posting your content on them. And then you want to make sure that you're not just posting content, but you are also in mainstream media, the newspapers. You are also on TV. Take every opportunity you can to put your name out, to be interviewed on TV, right? So that you're not just an internet celebrity. You also want for people to know that you have been interviewed at social radio stations and these TV stations. You want to literally be omnipotent, have omnipresence on as many platforms as possible, right? So, in the same vein, you also want to have articles written about you in the newspapers. You also want to be winning awards. You want to be putting out your name for these things. This is how you build celebrity status over time in your niche. And the more notoriety you get, the more fame you get. And the more fame you get, obviously, the more people begin to see you as a celeb in that niche. Now, maybe you are like some people, you don't want to be a celebrity, you don't want to be, no, but you still have got to sell your product, right? So now you can borrow celebrity, and that's where you now have to go, and now find a celebrity and either pay them or give them a piece of your business or a piece of the profits in exchange for them endorsing your product and selling your product. This is done a lot. And I'm sure you have seen products that celebrities are promoting, even locally and internationally, right? I follow Cristiano Ronaldo on social media. I'm a big fan of his. And he's promoting perfume here today. He's promoting a video game here tomorrow. He's not involved in those businesses, but he's being used as a celebrity to promote those products, right? And then he's either paid upfront or they reach an agreement of how they are going to pay him. So that is the power of celebrity. There's a wristwatch brand. The owners have sold it now to a bigger company, but the watch is called Movements, MVMT. Right. Now, Movements, when they launched, right, they were gaining some traction. But what blew them to the top in the market for mid-priced watches, right? Because they were not very cheap watches. They were also not as expensive as the Rolexes of this world. In fact, they didn't want to be the Rolexes of this world. They wanted to be in that middle price section, but they wanted to be the king of the middle price wristwatch market, right? So what did they do? They went to Cristiano Ronaldo and they offered him a piece of the profits for all the products that they sell using him. So they created a code, and I'm sure you've also seen this. If you watch Macaroni and watch his kids, that's Mr. Macaroni, the comedian, you see where he says, use my promo code, Mr. Macaroni. So they created a code, and Cristiano Ronaldo posted on Instagram to his fans, and he said, right, this is my favorite watch right now, and you can get so percentage off if you use my code CR7. So when people go to buy the watch and they type in CR7, that is the way they track it, and that's how they know how many watches sold. And like a rocket, Movement sales just shot up, and they made lots and lots of sales. And when they saw that that worked, they now went to other celebrities, because Cristiano Ronaldo has a set of fans who are interested in sports. People who are not interested in sports, or people who are interested in sports who don't like Cristiano Ronaldo, wouldn't follow him, right? So now they go to other celebrities and they ink the same type of deal with them, right? They went to Kylie Jenner and they did the deal with her. They did the deal with her sister, Kim Kardashian. In fact, for Kim Kardashian, they created a separate watch brand that was peculiar to her, that was for ladies. And they did this with a ton of celebrities. So last time I heard, the owners of the company eventually sold it for about $400 million. That is how much equity they were able to build into the watch brand movement in as little as about 4 or 5 years, right? Using the power of celebrity. Celebrity works because people believe what people that are famous and that are likable tell them to believe. People believe it 100%, many times without question, right? The boxer George Foreman died last month, and there's a grill that he was selling called the George Foreman grill. He never produced the George Foreman grill. I'm not even sure that he knows how it was produced, but it was a grill that worked, right? But they used his name to sell the grill. It was a simple grill. They used his name to sell it, and the grill was probably the best-selling grill in the world. So that is celebrity status. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of celebrities with their own products. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson has his own tequila brand. You see the rapper Jay-Z, when he was still with his old record label, they had Rockaway, the clothing company, right? Kylie Jenner has her own cosmetic brand. Rihanna started her own cosmetic brand and then started a motherhood care line of products. And they're able to do this because they have that status. They have celebrity. They are celebrities. You can do the same. You can either cultivate celebrity for yourself, or you can go out and borrow other people's statuses as celebrities and use that to sell your product. So I hope this has explained all of this to you today. So personal experience, social proof, authority, demonstration, and then finally celebrity. This is how you go from the least to the highest. You want to go from here as quick as possible to get to the point where you're using celebrity to sell your products and your services. And I hope you've learned so much from these video lessons. If you like our content, click on the subscribe button, follow us on social media. Our handles are in the description, and we are going to bring more of this kind of educational content your way every single week. So I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you again soon. Bye.